Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Anthony Nareko, and I'm the President and CEO of the Canadian Business Aviation Association. Thanks for taking the time today to join us for our Business Aviation and the Environment. We created a microsite and some supporting material with the effort to celebrate what the business aviation industry has done on the environment and the work that we have to go. So let's get started into our presentation. I first want to thank the team at Bombardier. As our platinum sponsor, Bombardier is an organization that is committed to the environmental portfolio. From its strong commitment to ICAO's Committee on the Aviation and Environmental Protection, or CAPE, to its designs of strong eco-designed aircraft, an approach that's leading to environmental product declarations. The team at Bombardier is deeply involved in the development, scalability, and adoption of sustainable aviation fuels. Thanks to the team at Bombardier for their support. To CAE, our silver sponsor today. In addition to being a global training provider and partner of choice to enhance safety, efficiency, and readiness, the team at CAE is committed to the environment with their plan to consume less, consume better, and offset their carbon emissions. Thanks to both of the organizations, Bombardier and CAE, for their sponsorship. It's their effort that will allow us to continue this message with government, with media, with our members, and those that need to learn a bit more about business aviation and the environment. So let's get started. And I think in order to do this, a topic this broad, the environment, I think it's important to sort of prime the mind, to open the perspective for the content that we'll have going forward. Now, I love using this to start. Donald Rumsfeld, he gave what I consider a very cherished response when explaining the decisions that led up to the decision to go to war in Iraq. He said there are known knowns. There are things that we know we know. There are known unknowns. There's stuff that we know that we don't know. And there are unknown unknowns, stuff that we have no idea about. But there's a fourth, and it's the unknown known, what we intentionally refuse to acknowledge that we know. So thanks for taking the time to attend events like these. It's together that I think will make a bit more known of the unknown. You know, it's been said that you can't change what people think. You can only change what they think about. And I think that's the crux of the opportunity that we have with this presentation. It's about sharing the facts. It's about celebrating the accomplishments we've made to date and talking about what needs to happen going forward. Let's focus on globally, our world in data. This is a site that tries to pull together all of the relevant information from all the data sources available across the globe. This picture that we see here tells the story of the energy production, and more particular, of aviation's contribution, circled here at 1.9%. Going further, we know that business aviation is but a fraction of that global emissions. In fact, it's 2% of the estimated contribution that aviation has globally. When we go back to the idea of making a change, there are areas in which we can focus on. Road transport at 11.9%, energy use in buildings, commercial and residential, an opportunity to focus on first principles. If we are focused on principles, in other words, focused on what is right versus who is right, this is a potential area to explore. Let's talk about Canada and put it into perspective. Amongst our global peers, Canada sits here at 1.6% of global emissions. This chart orientation, as we go further and we expand on Canada and those emissions, this chart is orientated to relative change. What's important to put into perspective is aviation and shipping, highlighted here, and the trend line experienced from 2010 to 2016. So putting things into perspective, aviation, and more specifically business aviation, has a minuscule global emissions footprint. But this isn't just about the facts. It's about, and whether or not you've got your head in the sand, it's about understanding those facts, celebrating the accomplishments we've made to date, and talking about what our obligations are going forward in terms of the environment. Our microsite is live today. It's available on our website. It's bilingual, and we'll use that website to share with government leaders, with media, our members, and those that need to know. I'd encourage you at the conclusion of our discussion to check out the website. We'll be using that quite a bit. Thanks again to our sponsors, Bombardier and CAE, for their support. This will enable us to carry this message forward, and we thank them. So going forward, what I'd like to do is unlock a bit of the potential when it comes to aircraft efficiencies. Business aviation always leads, whether that's through aircraft design, improved engine technology, and combined with a fleet renewal cycle that enables Canadian business aircraft operators to fly the most technologically advanced aircraft. This translates to fuel efficiency and noise reduction and safety improvements. For instance, did you know that in 1977, the Lear 28 was the first aircraft with winglets? Flight tests showed that these winglets increased fuel efficiency by 6.5%, improved directional stability. This knowledge applied to models like the Lear 55, 31, 60, the 45, and the 40. Followed very soon after by 1993 on the G2 with aviation partners. In terms of composite, business aviation has led the development and the use of composite materials. All of this in an effort to make our aircraft lighter and stronger. In terms of engine design, pushing the pace of innovation to lower fuel consumption, offering the best in terms of efficiency and environmental footprint. Now we know, according to the charts that we just looked at, aviation is but 1.9% of global emissions. 80% of that is for flights in excess of 1,500 kilometers. So our commitment by aircraft designers, our engine manufacturers, is to find efficiency as it relates to our engines and the fuel we consume. One of the additional benefits is how quiet our aircraft are. Around the world, our quest for improvement in design leads to lower noise profiles. Two examples that I think are relevant to Canadians. The first is the GTAA. One of the early conversations I had with the team at Toronto Pearson was to update their noise website. They had listed business aviation as a stage 2 noise player. And of course, with the developments we've made, we need to update that information. So it's one, relevant to the airport authorities, and two, and likely most important, relevant to the general public. The last story that I like to share that's relevant is of Toronto Island. Today, there are business aircraft available that are quieter than the permitted propeller aircraft at Toronto Island. So all of these design and engine efficiencies are translating to both fuel efficiency and a noise profile that allows us to operate across the globe. Let's talk about advanced manufacturing facilities and process. It's important to celebrate accomplishments the Canadian aerospace industry has made. Some stats from our friends at AIAC. Canadian aerospace manufacturing invested $1.4 billion in R&D, contributing close to a quarter of total manufacturing research and development in Canada. This translates to wins that we're able to celebrate as an industry. For instance, Bombardier's Global 7500, assembled in Toronto and Montreal, has a first, the Environmental Product Declaration for the aircraft. This makes known the full environmental information on the life cycle of the product. Another Pratt & Whitney, Canadian manufacturer, in their quest to power a sustainable future, they've got their assembly facility LEED Gold certified in Quebec. When we talk about sustainable aviation fuels, we believe this to be the single largest potential reduction in aviation emissions. That's why we've asked the Canadian government And we believe that Canada can play a lead role in the incentivization both for the production and the use of sustainable aviation fuel. It's ready today. There's no extra certification or changes required in your operation. Basically, put it in the aircraft, and from the moment the engines are started, you're starting to offset your net emissions. I think it's important to also share from our friends at ATAG the different pathways, the different feedstock options, and the blending ratios that exist for sustainable aviation fuel. What's interesting is that using these sustainable feedstocks, we're able to blend 10 to 50% of the fuel that we consume in an aircraft. And what's great is that it's ready today. There are no additional certification elements. So this is great general information. In terms of a call to action, what can you do? The first is take a look at sustainable aviation fuels. Study it. Ask for SAF at the FBOs that you visit. Help us push the government. We continue in budget submissions and discussions with government to incentivize Canadians to both produce and consume sustainable aviation fuel. It is the way that we can make the biggest difference in terms of aviation emissions. Let's talk about avionics upgrades. Business aviation tends to have the most modern fleet of aircraft flying today. By extension, then we get to take advantage of some of the latest technology. We continue to advocate for the ability to leverage the latest in technology to ensure safe and efficient flight, both in terms of the fuel saved, direct time savings in terms of routing. We applaud the efforts that our airports and our air navigation service provider, Nav Canada, and those across the globe are taking to improve the way technology is being used to route aircraft. All this translates to the bottom line, safety. Safety is, in fact, the bottom line. When we talk about aircraft design, a push for efficiency, the latest in technology and training, all of this translates to an environment that allows our business aviation operators to operate at the highest safety level for our passengers. Extending to the idea of facilitating Canadian business, where you're located shouldn't restrict your access or ability to grow your business. Business aviation is considered essential by so many of the world's top organizations because there is no better tool that provides safe, reliable, and efficient travel. A business ultimately exists to solve the problems their customers have. This mission then creates value for its employees, shareholders, and the economy. A time machine is simply a tool. Like the devices we provide to our employees, an aircraft is just that tool. Like those devices, it's a tool that increases our productivity, our efficiency, and our connectedness. Some of the world's top companies that we talked about, a perspective, 98% of the world's 50 most admired companies, according to Fortune magazine, use business aviation. 95% of the top 50 performing companies use business aviation. 95% of the Change the World top 20 use business aviation. And I've always said that whether your business is in a growth mode, a maintenance mode, or in a state of decline, the best way to think of it is sort of in our aviation world, the power curve. If you're behind the power curve, and that could have been as a result of, let's say, something like COVID, it takes an incredible amount of energy to bring you forward. And these tools, these aircraft, are but one element of committing that energy to bringing your business forward. And this is how we can tie to business and success. In terms of economic growth, business aviation and the associated manufacturing and support industries contribute significantly to the national economy. Canadian business aviation is an important facilitator of economic development. We employ over 47,000 men and women across this country. This translates to over $3.5 billion in wages, 5.8 in GDP, and $12.1 billion in output for Canada. So recall that I started this presentation by saying that you can't change what people think, but you can change the way they think about things. Aviation, and more specifically business aviation, has a minuscule global emissions footprint. But this microsite and the effort by the CBAA is designed to celebrate both the facts, our accomplishments, and the commitment to a vision with a role that we play on the environment. I want to thank again our sponsors, Bombardier, CAE, and you, our members, for tuning in. Going forward, if you have any questions about this environment site, sharing it, questions on the data, we're here to assist. Our team here in Ottawa exists to promote and simplify the lives of business aviation operators. We hope that this microsite makes known a bit more of our aviation environmental footprint, and we thank you for the time today.